If you're like me, you probably feel depressed or anxious, sad, frustrated, worried, like all the time. There's a way that we could really take control of those emotions and change them for the good. And it's not what you think. It's not through medication. I want you to stay tuned to the end of the video. I'm going to give you exact instructions on how to do this, step-by-step instructions on really how to change these emotions for the good. But first, let's dive in a little bit deeper into these negative emotions and where they come from to really understand this. So I mentioned I suffer from depression and anxiety. What I've learned is that it's rooted in a lot of different things for me. So financial strain, relationship issues, or a lack of faith. It's only when I really started to learn what I'm going to teach you in this video, how to take control of these emotions, that I saw a lot of different positive changes that occurred in my body and that occurred in my life. People often think that it's our thoughts that create this chaos or this havoc in our system, in our body. And it's our thoughts that keeps us in lack and poverty. There's a whole cult around positive thinking. We want to think positive, think positive, think positive. And that's all good. Like, there's nothing wrong with thinking positive. There's a lot of good benefits from thinking positive. But the lack and the chaos and the sickness and disease that we experience in our body and in our life, it doesn't come from what we're thinking. Our thoughts don't create those things. What it comes from are the emotions that we're feeling. It comes from the stress that we're creating in our body. That's what wreak havoc on our system and our hormones, our immune system, the success that we see in our lives externally, our wealth, our riches, etc. All of that is influenced by how we feel, because it's our emotions that's going to determine the actions that we take next, both physically and the actions that are being taken in our body to help us feel good. Since we know that our emotions are the fire starter, for example, of these different events, or the trigger for these different events that occur in our life and our body, now we can start to understand where they come from and how we can actually control them. We learned in a previous video, and I'll go ahead and link it here, we learned that our emotions, they start in our heart. The feelings that we have start in our heart. Our heart receives whatever emotion that we give to it. And it sends a signal to our brain, and our brain will process that signal. And one of two things is going to happen. Either it's going to be good or it's going to be bad. There's a whole list of things under what can happen if it's good, and there's a whole list of things of what can happen if it's bad, but either one or two things are going to happen. When we think of these negative emotions, we think of depression, we think of anxiety, fear, confusion. We feel weak, we feel hopeless and secluded, we feel impatient, we feel stuck. These are all valid emotions, but we have to understand, like, why do we feel that way? We start to feel these emotions really based off of like what happens to us in our lives. Something that happens to us in our life that kind of triggers these emotions, but we have to really change how we're looking at it. It's the perception of what happens to us that creates these emotions, not the physical action of what creates it. It's how we are thinking about it, how we perceive what's happened to us. If we perceive it as something negative, we're going to start feeling those negative emotions, and then that process happens with our brain and our body, etc. If we process it, or we have a perception that what's happened to us is good, we'll start to feel calm and at peace, and our heart's going to send that signal to our brain, and things are going to happen accordingly. Ultimately, what's going on is stress. Stress is the driver for these negative emotions. These negative emotions, problematic emotions, they send these signals to the brain. They're incoherent signals. When we think of incoherent versus coherent, coherent signals are very smooth and slow and steady, right? You can see that in the picture. Incoherent signals, they're fast, they're rough, they're jagged, right? These incoherent signals, they create disharmony, they create disease, disorder, destruction, dissatisfaction. I can go on and on of what these incoherent signals create. Your brain will process incoherent signals in one way. It's going to create problems, nothing else. They're going to create problems in our mind, our body, outside in our life, when this happens, the brain shuts down every other system in our body. So it shuts down our immune system, so now we can't fight infection. It shuts down our hormonal system, so now we become imbalanced, and we have disease, and we have physical changes that occur on our body. It shuts down our nervous system. All of these are needed in order for us to feel good. So now that we understand kind of what drives these negative emotions and the responses in our body, common sense tells us that in order to reverse what's happening, we really have to change the emotions that we're going through at that moment. So as we begin to shift our emotions from negative to the positive emotions like joy and gratitude and appreciation, we begin to reverse the effect of what that stress is causing to us, in terms of the disease or destruction that's happening in our body. We start to reverse that. We start to feel more at peace. We start to feel resilience. We create patience and calm in our life. We have better relationships with the people around us. All of these positive emotions are going to have positive impact on your whole entire being. It's going to create good and victory in our life. It has no choice but to. So how do we begin to kind of change our emotions? I want you to stay tuned for the exact instructions on how to do that. But first, if you're finding value in this video, if you find it interesting and if you find value in this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of these videos. I give you some wonderful secrets on how you can change your life for the better. In the comments, let me know if you've been in a stressful situation and what did you do to overcome that stress in your life? Did you change your emotion, or kind of what was your process? The key to changing our emotions is by matching what's going on in our heart to what's going on in our brain. We want to harmonize the two, our heart and the brain. We want to bring them together, bring them on the same page. In order to do that, we have to connect the electrical and magnetic fields in our body. Your entire body is full of energy. You have electrical currents running all through your body right now and on the outside of your body. 100% factual. Everyone has this. Our heart, out of all the organs in our body, our heart has the strongest electrical and magnetic field. The electrical field in our heart is 100 times stronger than the electrical field in our brain. That's super powerful. The magnetic field in our heart is 5,000 times stronger than the magnetic field in our brain. So just imagine if you are bringing these two currents from your heart and you're connecting them with the same currents or electrical currents in your brain, you're creating a superpower, a powerful super force of possibility. You could do anything. You could change anything when you have elevated or connected these two. So you ask, how do we do this? Number one, the first thing that you want to do is you want to get out of your mind, because remember, all of the emotions, all of the change that happens, it doesn't start in your mind. It starts in your heart. So get out of your mind and get into your heart. In our situation here, when we're trying to change our emotions, when we shift our focus to our heart, we're really recognizing that we have an imbalance. We're recognizing that we don't feel good, and we want to take immediate control of the situation, of our mood. So you want to physically and gently touch your heart center. How that looks, completely up to you. Touch it with a few fingers, touch it with your palm, praying hands, whatever you need. Totally doesn't matter, as long as you're physically touching your heart. The second thing that you want to do, number two, you want to slow your breathing. I mean, slow your breathing considerably. For me, I count to 5, inhale, count to 5, exhale. And I do this multiple times. And eventually your breathing will become so slow. It's going to signal to your brain that you're okay. You're acknowledging what is. You're at peace. You've released control, like you're safe. You're releasing any hold that these negative emotions had over you. You're releasing the bondage that was created from these negative emotions. And you're starting to submit yourself to the positive emotions of the higher power within us, of God. The last thing that you want to do, number 3, is you want to feel the feeling. Feel the feeling of whatever it is that you want. So if you're looking for joy, if you're searching for joy, you want to feel happy, you want to think of things in your mind that's going to spark that feeling. So whether that's thinking of, people in your life that you love, or remembering an event that happened or that you went to, or a trip that you took, like whatever it is that brings you that joy and happiness, think of that as you're connecting with your heart and you're breathing slowly. All positive, intentional emotions come from God. Now, when you're going through this process, especially when you're first starting out, it can be a little intimidating. You may experience some frustration because your mind's going to drift. Your mind's going to drift probably often, and it's normal because it's something that's new to you. You're going to have thoughts that come to you that's totally unrelated to what you're thinking of or what you're trying to accomplish or strive for. When this happens, don't give up. Don't interrupt what you're doing. Just let what is happening happen. Don't give the thought any energy. Don't start analyzing the thought. Don't judge the thought. Just watch the thought appear and watch it drift away. The union that you're creating from connecting your heart, having your slow breathing, thinking of these good emotions, you're creating a coherent signal. And remember, we talked about the difference between incoherent and coherent. So these positive emotions is creating a coherent signal that's being sent from your heart to your brain. And now your brain knows that, okay, you're safe. You feel good. Now your brain's going to take this coherent signal and it's going to do what it does with those. And that's all good things, all positive things. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to give power to your immune system and your hormonal system. It's going to have you, it's going to give you more creativity and more intuition, and you're going to be able to do things that you haven't been able to do before, and give you success and victory in your life. It's really easy to do this. You can do this any time of day, but start off by just doing it in the morning when before you get out of bed, or do it in the evening before you go to sleep. You don't have to take a lot of time to do this. It really only takes a few minutes for this to start to activate, for that coherence to start to activate and those changes start to take place in your body. Literally 3 minutes is all that you need. But the more that you do this and the longer you do it, the stronger that connection between your heart and your brain is going to be. And because it's so strong, it's going to create more powerful changes in your mind and body and externally. So just start off, a couple times a day, at least 3 minutes at a time, and really take note of how you feel before and how you feel afterwards. You'll start to notice a huge difference. Watch this video here on more benefits of connecting your heart and your mind together, and take a look at this playlist on mastering your mind to give you everything that you need and everything that you want in life. But in the meantime, be well, be safe, and I'll see you soon.